Welcome back. We're back. I had a whopping 4-minute break or something between my last live stream. Welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. This is the stream I do a couple of times a week, at least 3 times a week. And this is where we talk about anything related to job search and careers, but we talk about it not from the theoretical point of view, more from the gritty reality point of view. That's what we're here to do. And the title of this stream is The Truth About Job Search. So we're going to get into that. This is episode number 129. Special shout out goes out to all my channel members and my Patreons. You guys are awesome as I smack my keyboard around in a show of dominance. Also, special thanks to my super thanks donors. Those are always nice to get. Thank you for sending those. You guys are awesome. And also to my viewers and participants. That means you. So congratulations. You rock. It's official. If you are seeing my face, you should see a chat box somewhere in the vicinity of my face, depending on what device you're watching this on. And if you've been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you should be able to get in the chat box and ask questions. I am going to start today, actually, something that somebody asked me last thing in the previous chat I didn't have a chance to get to. And the question was, how does one manage one's boss? So there's really, I'm just sort of doing this off the top of my head. There's really not that much you can do here. Your boss is in charge. And usually they call the shots. Usually, if there's a difference of opinion as to what's reasonable and what's expected and things like this, usually they will win out. They are the one that they will be believed, and their opinion will be accepted over yours. That's just the rules of the game. That's usually how it works. That being said, though, there's certain things you can do. It should be very, very important for people if you want things to go smoothly in your job. This is what I would say. You should try and have as good a relationship with your boss as possible. Now, it's not always possible. I mean, there are some incredibly amazing, incredibly huge pricks out there, people bordering on sociopaths that it's just not possible to get along with these people. You know what I mean? Or you're just not compatible with them, no matter what you try. So that's the reality. If that's the case, there's not too much you can do, but you should do your best to try and have things go smoothly with them. It's to your own advantage. You will save your gray hairs. Your job will be easier. Your whole life will be easier. So what I'd say is check in with your boss regularly. I would say once every 2 weeks. Just if they have an office and you can go to their office, just knock on their door and just say, hey, you got a couple minutes, and just ask them, so, how am I doing? How's everything going? Is there something that you'd like to see done differently that I could maybe perhaps do? Like that kind of stuff. That if they don't come to you with this information, go to them and just give them the opportunity to say, actually, I appreciate that. And now that you mention it, I notice you were doing this. If you could change it to doing that, that would be awesome. Something like that. That really helps. Beyond that, there's really not that much like blanket advice on how to manage your boss. Just signaling to them that, you care about what they think, and you should, because they're your boss. They can make your life miserable. They have the potential to. But that's all I'd say. That's pretty much the number one thing. And then depending on how those conversations go, then you would get into specific issues. That's how I would do it. Learn all you can about the organization, I suppose, if you really want to try and put time into this. You know what I mean? The more you know about, the office politics and that kind of stuff, the more you can survive in it and you can come out on top and at least not get crushed like having a steamroller run over you. So that's what I'd say about that. But yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. Somebody asked, I believe it was Pearl, somebody said, how does one manage one's boss in a workplace type situation? So that would be my answer to that. Let me know if you have any more specific questions there, Pearl. Okay, so the truth about job search. This is something that, we try and reveal on this channel, like how things work. And the place where I always start with this discussion, and you guys can ask questions and let me know what your wondering about, what you're struggling with. But just to sort of talk about that question very generally is, I've always felt that, especially young people, you're not taught how this stuff actually works in the real world. For example, the simple fact that all the jobs you see posted, that's like 15% of all the jobs that actually exist. Most people aren't told this. You have to sort of figure this out by searching or getting out in the job market, applying for posted jobs, and then seeing things not add up, And maybe you don't even have to be out of a job to see that that isn't true. Like, for example, say you're working in a job and you notice that one day you get a new boss just out of the blue. And you're like, wait a minute, I wasn't aware that that job had been posted. Like, if that job had been posted, we would have all known here that, our old boss was leaving and we were going to get a new boss. But it wasn't posted. So how did they get this person? So like, you can see little things like that. It's like, most jobs are not posted, right? There's a lot of signs for it. And there you go. So get in the chat. We have got 10 people here. Thank you for joining me today. You guys are awesome. If you are between jobs now and you're kind of wondering what to do, or you need help, or things are not going anywhere fast, this is my forum for people to send in questions, and I will do my best to help you out and answer them. Can't respond to comments like, with written answers, just not possible. Too many comments, just not possible to do, impractical. So I do this. I get on the live streams and then I can respond verbally. As always, if you want to go deeper into job search, you want to learn how to get hired on the posted job market, you want to learn how to get hired in the hidden job market, I have a couple of courses. Check out this course. Where is it here? This. Check this out. This is my Get Hired course. Very popular course. All my advice in one place, with templates, with processes, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that kind of thing. The real value here is also how to get hired in the hidden job market, how to do things like direct outreach, how to get informational interviews, stuff like that. With whom and how do you use them and what do you get out of it? Things like this. That's the real gem. I haven't yet covered that stuff on my YouTube channel for free. I don't think I ever will, because there's so much to it. It's just not possible. You can't tell someone in 5 minutes how to do all this stuff. You just can't. There's so many principles stacked on top of each other, and they all apply at once. So that's the thing. So check that out. Also, check out this course too. This is my Write Like a Professional course. This is a course that teaches you advanced communication skills. So what this can do is it can make you effective at many things, including what I just said, getting hired in the hidden job market. This will help you enhance your abilities there. But primarily, this is for people who are working in a job right now and you're wanting to get promoted. So a very easy way to be seen as somebody that should be promoted upwards or is a candidate for that is to have very good communication skills. So that's what this is. Everything I learned in my journey from being a supervisor, going all the way up to a CEO, everything I learned about communication skills, I put into this course. So you can check that out. And all of these, you can find a link to them in the description box underneath this video. So the description box below, I've put a link to the course itself and also to a video I've made for each course that describes the course, what you get, how it works, and the interest of being transparent. So there you go. Okay, somebody's here. Somebody says, hi, thank you for your session. You're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely welcome. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to respond to your questions. The last session, the last live stream I did 2 hours ago, it was practically 2 hours long, and took a while to get going for the questions to come in, but then I got inundated with them, so I had to speed through them a little bit at the end. But I'm hoping some of those people are still around and that I can get to helping you out. Okay, Jeremy Mitchell is here. Says, I attended a recent job interview for a warehouse manager role. I submitted a KPI document outlining key areas I would manage within the warehouse. Does the doc give me an advantage over other candidates? Impossible to say, because it depends how these people think and who you were talking to. If it's a recruiter, I would say probably not. Like, it might signal that, you've thought ahead and, like this kind of thing. But you risk, like, depending on how you presented it and what you presented, maybe it's off the mark. There's no way to know. There's no way to know what they're expecting. There's no way to know what they value in a candidate. If they're wanting someone that can go above and beyond in this particular way, there's no way to tell. So, that's the reality, right? It's the thing is, like, you never really know what's up with the people interviewing you. You don't know what they're looking for. You don't know what they place importance on. You don't know what's like an instant elimination. Maybe they have quirks or very specific things that they want or they don't want. There's no way to know that stuff. There are some best practices you can do, that minimize the attack surface, as it were, so that, they minimize the risk. You know what I mean? So, like, for example, one of the most basic ones of those is when they give you open-ended questions in a job interview, they say, like, tell me about yourself, or they say, what are your strengths, or, things like this, right? It's kind of open-ended. You could say almost anything in response to that. The problem is if you just talk off the top of your head, oh yeah, my hobbies are, fly fishing and I'm really into kittens. My wife has like 147 kittens as pets, so I'm really into kittens. You know what I mean? Like, just talking off the top of your head, you risk putting your foot in your mouth, accidentally saying something that, unbeknownst to you, they really don't like. You know what I mean? Like, you just said the wrong thing. You would have had no way of knowing that these people just really weren't into that. But nevertheless, you did, right? So one of the most basic things is to always default back to the things that they've said they regard as good, right? So on the job description, they give you a list of requirements. They said, we're looking for someone who's got this, right? So chances are is if you say, oh, I have this and I have this, they're not going to see that as any kind of red flag. And they're not going to be indifferent to it because they've actively told you, we are looking for this. We regard that as a good thing, right? So one best practice is to default to things like that. Content that is safe, right? Things like that. So the other thing, like, the logic goes that if you've sent in a resume and they received your resume as part of the application, and based on the application and your resume, they granted you an interview, that tends to suggest that there was nothing on your resume that was like a major red flag, right? So, that is making the assumption that they have read the resume. That's not always the case. But assuming they've read the resume, it says, okay, the content on your resume is safe. So if they ask you a question and you really don't know, what the answer is, you could talk about this, you could talk about that, right? A good best practice is to err on the side of like safe content, stuff that's already on your resume or stuff that they've said that they are looking for, things like that, right? Now, why am I saying all this? I'm saying all this because you went above and beyond and you presented a sheet with like some key performance indicators or whatever, about warehouse stats or something. You know what I mean? Maybe you walked into a situation where the previous warehouse manager was like a numbers geek. They were like, they had a background in accounting. They managed everything according to the numbers. And the reason why they didn't work out is because they were lacking in the people management skills. All the other warehouse workers hated the manager. They all left in protest, brought the warehouse operation to a standstill. They fired the manager because of it. Like, I don't know. That could have been a scenario. You come in and say, oh, here's a whole bunch of KPIs, there's analysis, numbers, right? And then they go, oh, red flag. We don't want that guy, you know? So you never know what you're walking into. You take a chance on everything. Maybe it was the opposite. Maybe the last person didn't have any sense of numbers or metrics or, anything. And as a result, they ran the place really inefficiently. And that was their downfall, So now they're looking for, a numbers guru that's going to really care about efficiency. Who knows? But the thing is, you're flying blind is my point, right? So whether it's a good idea or not, the only thing you can say is, was there anything on the job posting that might have indicated one way or another whether this approach is kind of what they're looking for or not? I'd throw that question back to you. Okay, so the GM shared he was having challenges with inventory reconciliation. I think my doc speaks to key areas with regards to the issues. Okay, well, we'll see. I wish you every bit of luck, Jeremy Mitchell. I don't know. It could go both ways. I don't think it's a stupid idea. We'll see how it goes. And but you can't always go on their feedback because they always lie. Always. Right? The last thing a hiring manager is going to do, unless they're a psychopath, and this is like a hobby for them, is to, tell people like, you're no good at this. Your problem is you didn't mention this, No, I'm sorry, you're too off-putting as a person. We're not hiring you. They're not going to do that. They're going to say, I'm sorry, you're overqualified, or, oh, I thought you did really, really well. We'll be in touch, right? That's how those things go. So not to bombard you with a ton of cynicism or anything, but this is just how it works. You take your best guesses, and then, that's how it goes. If it's any consolation, Jeremy, I prefer people that go above and beyond. Even if it's a little not what I'm looking for, at least I can. It signals the effort is there. So best of luck, and thank you for your question. It was a great question. Thomas says, thank you, Thomas. Thomas says, causing that job market crash now or other factors? Okay. Do you think that what is happening with the job market now is any worse than what happened in the past? I mean, not to come across as being totally out of touch or anything, but I didn't think there was anything really happening in the job market. Didn't the US just announce that they, their employment numbers are doing really well? They're like right down the middle or something. I mean, the thing I heard before that was that they got rid of all the people who count these things or something. We're going to eliminate all these departments that generate the statistics, and we're going to declare that the statistics are all fine. I don't know. I'm not an American, so I don't understand that kind of thinking. But last time I checked, I didn't think there was like a major job market crisis. I'm in Canada, so I mean, I don't know. But the thing is, the job market is like anything else. It goes up, it comes down. It goes up, it comes down. That's just how it goes. I can't keep track of it on a daily basis, whether it's 2%, 4%, 5%, 3%. You know what I mean? So it depends what country you're in. Different countries, some countries are really having issues right now, depending on where you are and what's going on. And certain industries are going through some stuff. Even if your region is doing well overall, your industry might be in a decline, right? That's also how things go. All industries are kind of doing this, right? Whether it's cyclical or it's totally random, they're all kind of doing this all at the same time. When they all align together and they all go down together, that's a recession, right? When they all go up together, that's a boom. So, you know what I mean? And the other thing is, like, if the job market is going up or going down, people still get hired anyway, right? Slightly less of them get hired when the market is down, but they still are hiring, right? They still have people that retire, they still have people that are fired, they still need to replace people, they still need to expand, So I wouldn't worry too much about like market numbers. I would focus on what you need to do to get a job in your specific situation. That's what I'd worry about. And don't let this weird excuse for like a replacement of the media that we have now, like, things like YouTube. Like, it's all driven by panic. Don't let that fool you. Just remember, things are not as bad as they sometimes seem. The media and anyone trying to attract your attention, they have an interest in having you panic, because then you'll consume more news and you'll be more interested in what they have to say. It's fear mongering. It's panic mongering. Whenever I go on YouTube, the only things I see are like, it's the end of the world, in various forms. Things will never be the same again. Oh my God. AI is here. We're all doomed. The job market is down. We're all doomed. Different countries are doing this. Certain people with orange hair are saying this. We're all doomed. They were saying that 10 years ago too. And I mean, nothing ever changes. So just remember, things are not as bad as they look. That's just a reality, right? Thomas says, thank you for your enthusiasm, the voice of reason as always. Well, thank you very much. You're being very kind. I'm just old. I've seen all this crap before many times, and it always goes the same way. Everybody gets worked up into a tizzy over nothing. And in the end, it's just business as usual. I mean, I'm not trying to trivialize anybody that's lost a job because of AI or the job market, or, what I mean? Like, yes, these things do have somewhat of an impact for some people, but you know what? That's life. And for every job that is eliminated, generally speaking, you have 1.1 jobs that open up somewhere else. You know what I mean? So we stay about the same. Things move around a little, but it's basically the same, So I just don't think it's a reason for everyone to panic. You know what I mean? There's always tragedy. There's always change. But overall, we're still doing okay. Just don't get all your news from social media, because if you do, you get this impression that, the world's about to explode. We're all about to die. It's not true. It's not true. Okay. You're going to be fine. Tomas says, yeah, it's panic everywhere. Yeah, it's panic everywhere when you look at certain places, right? And you're concerned with certain things. But it's not actually panic everywhere. It's just panic everywhere on things like certain social media and stuff like that. Some guy from the internet says everyone's in doom and gloom about AI, but then the companies simply outsource the jobs abroad to where wages are lower. AI, more like all India. Well, I'm not going to comment on that. This is apolitical. And you know what? That's just a trend that's been happening since the Industrial Revolution. People automate things and they find cheaper ways of doing things. That's the entire point of business, is to do things better. And one part of doing things better, in theory, is to make what we have now cheaper. So yes, you can expect that. That's going to continue, whether it's AI or some other thing. It's always going to be something doing that. That's just how it goes. That's part of a trend that's been going steadily upwards for 400 years. Okay, so, does that mean we all have to burn our clothes, run around outside and bark at the moon? No. It just means learn all you can about, where the money is, where the value is, what people are looking for, how you can be useful to them, And I guarantee you have the skills that someone is looking for right now. There is someone out there. There is an employer. There's more than one. But there is an employer out there right now, near you, that's looking for you. They're looking for someone that has exactly what you have. It's just that you guys aren't connecting. Right? That's the real challenge, is to connect to that person out there that needs you right now. Okay, that should be your focus, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Okay. Well, we got to the end of the questions. So get in the chat. There are 20 people here. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. Coming here to listen to me ramble about life, the universe, and everything. If you are a subscriber to my channel, you should see a chat box. Get in the chat box. Let me know what you're struggling with, what you're wondering about, and I will do my best to help you out. I'm here for at least another half hour. At least that's the plan. So let me know what you guys are wondering about. Man, I do a lot of talking. Yeah. So we were talking about job interviews. We were talking about resumes. We were talking about the posted job market, the hidden job market, all that kind of stuff. Thomas said there has been a recent PwC report surveying CEOs. That's PricewaterhouseCoopers report surveying CEOs, where the majority of CEOs stated that it would be difficult to increase revenue for them in 26. See, when I hear that, I first of all immediately think bullshit. Then, if you told me that it isn't bullshit, it's actually true, like if you could convince me of that, then I would think, okay, what's their angle? Why do they want people to think that? What advantage are they trying to get by having everyone believe this, right? Because first of all, if a CEO says, I don't know if we're going to be able to make our numbers, that's the opposite of what their job is. That's the equivalent of if you worked as, I don't know, a grocer, like, you go to work at a grocery store and you bag groceries. That's your job. You're expected to bag all the groceries that customers need. It would be like you telling your boss, I don't know if I can make it to the front of the store today to bag all those groceries. It really looks doubtful. Is that something you would say to your boss? Because it seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like if you're wanting to get yourself fired, that's a good start. You know what I mean? So CEOs saying something like that, what's their angle? Are they trying to signal to the government that they need more subsidies, that government should lighten the tax load on them so that they don't go under? Maybe that's what they're trying to do, right? Because their entire job, and a lot of CEOs, like I was a small-time CEO, but CEOs in general, like big corporations, they're paid a king's ransom to ensure that the opposite of that happens, right? And if you want to know if people are believing stuff like this, you go look at the financial markets. You go look at things like the stock market, bond market. Are people optimistic or are they pessimistic? Now, if you look at the American, like things like the Dow Jones stuff, it's been going like that. It's been going straight up. So that kind of signals investors think that they're going to be making more money and they're not panicking. Okay, so unless something has changed in the last 12 hours since I last looked at the Dow, people are still pretty confident. They're putting their money into those companies, expecting that they'll make a profit on them. So the reason why a CEO or a PwC would say something like this is some kind of signal to get some kind of advantage to them. That's how I think, based on years and years of being in this game, right? So don't panic. Okay, now if you see the stock market plummeting like the Great Depression, then you could maybe argue that something's up, okay? That this is a time we really need to reconsider what we do. It's not business as usual. But I don't see that happening. We're going the opposite direction with all the indicators, and you can just assume that there's all kinds of people, they all have an incentive for you to panic. That's how they make money. That's how they control you. So that would be my take on it. It's an interesting kind of area we've wandered into. I normally don't talk about this stuff, but that's my opinion. That's how I regard this stuff. Okay. And let's wait and see, Thomas. Let's come back here in a year and we'll see what happened. How it turned out. You see, the way financial people look at this stuff, the people that deal with risk and return, the ones that are in the business of predicting the future, right? When it comes to this stuff, the only way that you can really say with any objectivity is, what's going to happen is by looking at past precedent. What does the history show? If things have been going like this, and it's not some cycle like this, but it's just been going like that, and it's been doing that since 1971, it's hard to kind of then make a case that, it's going to go like this. You know what I mean? Like, what's that based on? Is that based on anything real that we can evaluate? No. Now you look at all the different crises that have happened since 1971. Okay, there's like a couple of gas crises. There was all kinds of stuff in the 80s. There was a dot-com bubble. Like, how did that affect things? It went like this, and then it went right like that. 2008, and it went down a little deeper, and then it went like that. You know what I mean? So anyway, I don't want to get into that stuff, but you get the idea. So don't panic. You're doing fine. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. I can't say that name. I don't want to try, but I will try because nobody ever gets insulted when their name is bastardized. Says, I may be asked this question in my next interview. Do you have any knowledge in HTML and SQL development? The position requires light knowledge in IT and development, which I don't really have. How should I answer this question? Well, here's what I'd recommend. If you don't have any knowledge in SQL development, HTML and SQL development, say, well, I don't really have much. I'm kind of at the beginner level, but I do know a bit about it. I'm aware of its existence. I at least know what those words mean. Hopefully that's true, right? If you, on the other hand, know about it, I would say you know about it. I'd say, yeah, I know what those are. I have skills in that area. I've been practicing those skills for fill in the amount of time that's true, like a couple of years, several years, right? Now, if you don't know what those mean and you know that this question is coming up, go and learn everything you can about this stuff before your interview. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. It's not brain rocketry. Go and figure out like what this stuff is, right? Hopefully you know what to do. I mean, I'm sure everyone does, but just in case there's someone out there that doesn't, okay? Can you explain to me how HTML and SQL development works in, say, 150 words? What are the subtopics? What are the key points about those two things? So if I was asked about it, I can reasonably convince people that I have a depth skill set in that area, at least to a certain degree. I don't know, I'm just making this up as I go along, right? Okay. So there you go. And then you just read that and try and memorize it. And away you go. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Then learn all you can. Don't just stop there. Learn everything you can. There's many resources to learn that stuff, not just ChatGPT. That's where maybe I would start. That in Google is obviously the place to start, right? But then you can give an answer, and if they press you further, you can go a little bit deeper, and then you go a little bit deeper. And then you can hopefully convince them that, SQL development is not going to be a problem for you. And I don't think you should worry too much, because if you can get a crash course in it right before an interview, you can certainly get an even bigger crash course in it before you start a job. You know what I'm saying? And as someone who's done this, like coding and stuff like that in a past life, it's not rocket science. If you practice it, you learn it, it's not the end of the world. Thomas says, your comment is very useful about PWC. Yeah, do I know? No, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but that's how these things usually go, okay? Now, you never know. It could be very specific companies that are in trouble. I don't know, but across the board, they're doing fine. At least in the US and in the West, they're fine as far as I know. If we're talking about a very specific country somewhere halfway around the world from where I am, then maybe that's not the case, but you know what I'm saying? It's PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I'm assuming they're talking about the US or the world economy. Thomas says, what's the best way now to find a new job? Is LinkedIn worth anything? Yes, LinkedIn is worth it's an incredible tool, but the thing is, not for the way you're probably thinking. What I'd recommend to people is to get a job in the hidden job market. That's where 80% of the jobs are. That's where 80% of the jobs have always been, and where 80% of the jobs will be going forward. You know, there's many solid reasons why the jobs are there. It's cheaper for the companies to hire in the hidden job market, and as an added bonus, they get better results. They get better candidates. So that's a pretty compelling argument for why they continue to look there. You know what I mean? So that's where I'd recommend you focus your efforts. Now, don't completely abandon posted jobs. If you're a young person, especially if you're in your 20s, don't completely abandon the posted job market. Just keep an eye out if there's anything interesting there. But learn how to get hired in the hidden job market. That's where all the jobs are. That's where the good jobs are, you know. And if you're an introvert or a technical person, you can do this too. I'm an introvert and a technical person. There's absolutely nothing stopping you. It's a lot simpler than you would think. You just need to learn a few basic things about how stuff works. You know, how to approach people, you know, who to approach, what to say, you know, what to ask for, you know, this kind of stuff. So if you want to learn that with me, there's no way I can like teach everyone this stuff in like a few minutes. Even in an hour, I couldn't teach it all. There's so many principles all stacked on top of each other. And if you've never done anything like this, we have to go through all of them. I put all that learning into that course, my Get Hired course. So if you want to check out that course, that's where you can learn all that stuff from me. You know, now if you want to see some hints, there's some basic stuff we can do, right? The simplest possible method to get hired in the hidden job market is something called direct outreach, right? Now, I can show you on here. I can show you a couple of things online. We'll do a couple of things. So, okay, direct outreach as a method to get jobs on the hidden job market. How do you do it? And what is it like? What do you do, and how does it work? There we go. Okay, now obviously I'm doing this to show you guys, like, okay, this is where the learning for you can start. Okay, if you don't want to take my courses, you don't want to watch my videos, you can see the stuff right here. You can see it's not coming directly from me. So a lot of young people, when they hear this, they just assume I'm making it up. It's like I'm not, you know. Okay, so direct outreach is a job search strategy where you contact decision makers directly instead of waiting for a posted job. It works because most hiring happens before a role is even ever advertised, or without one being posted at all. There we go. Okay, so then it goes through a process. Identify the right companies, find the decision maker, make short value-based outreach. Here's some templates, conversation creates the job, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you could do stuff like this. This is like, you know, the sort of idiot's guide to doing this. Other things, let's see what else we can do here. Okay, Google. Now, let's name a city. I'm going to pick a city at random. How about something in Florida? What's in Florida? Is it Tallahassee? Tallahassee is a city. My microphone is in the way. Tallahassee. There we go. City in Florida. Look at that. So if I go to maps, right? Now, somebody was talking about doing SQL and HTML, right? So let's say I'm in Tallahassee and I want to get a job doing SQL and HTML, okay? So, we could do the dumb thing then to say SQL, HTML. I don't know if this is going to produce anything, but we'll try that. Starting point. Yeah, not really. But what industry is that? Coding? So IT coding? I don't know how you would say that. Okay, here's something. Let's zoom in, okay? So this is downtown. Let's say we live in the north end, okay, of Tallahassee. We say search this area, this little button up here. Okay, so what pops up? Goodwill Computer Store, Florida Capital Hospital. Okay, that's interesting. Define software development. Now here, for example, here we can click on this. Let's say this was a potential employer where you could work. I mean, I don't think so as a developer, but you never know. You're getting the name of the organization. You see geographically where it is. So if it's within like a commute distance, right? Okay, here's their website. So you could go on their website and, see if they've posted any jobs, I suppose, right? Okay, and there's some other ones here. Now let's try this. How about software development? Software dev, how about that? Okay, so we got a couple other things here. Canopy Software, there we go. That's a little bit more promising. Software company. Grapeworks software company. There's that hospital again. There's that place. That's sponsored, so I'm not going to do that. Now, if we zoom in even more, like this, these are individual streets, so it's getting to be a tall order. But let's say we go over here, this lakeshore area. Is there anything here? Not really. You got Paranorm LLC software company. There you go. Website designer. There's a website designer LLC, so it's a software company, I guess. SGD Technology. Software company. Oh, it looks like somebody's trailer, so it's a 5-star outfit. Anyway, so what you can do here is if you're doing something like direct outreach, you can then go on LinkedIn and like all of these places, right? You can go on LinkedIn, you type in the name of these companies. Like what was this last one? Was it this? Where was the last one? SGCG Technology. Well, one of these. Yeah, I think that was the last one. So SGS Technology, spelt weird. And we type that into LinkedIn and we do a people search, and LinkedIn can help you see inside these organizations to the individuals. So here's the owner, here's the general manager, here's the head of engineering, here's, whatever, right? So then you can reach out to these people like we were doing earlier, with this, right? Like with direct outreach, right? Identify the right companies, sources, LinkedIn search. You can search on LinkedIn, but Google Maps for local firms. So we did that, right? Find the decision maker. So then you have multiple options now. You could send them a friend request. You could say, hey, I see that we're both in the same industry. I'd very much like to add you to my network, something like that. Or you could send them a pitch and say, hello, my name is X. I'm a fully qualified SQL and HTML developer. I solve this particular problem. If ever you're looking for a kick-ass developer to join your team, please let me know. Have yourself a great day. Something like that. And now, if they're not hiring, then nothing comes of it. But if they are, then they're going to check you out, right? Because they're looking for that right now, and you live nearby, and you had the initiative to reach out to them, and you have what they're looking for. And if you haven't like made 1,000 spelling and grammatical mistakes in your message to them, you come across professionally, you come across very persuasive, they don't have any red flags in responding to you. It seems perfectly legit. These are things that someone who just applied for a job, they don't have. They haven't interacted with you. They haven't got a sample of your communication skills. They haven't seen how professional you are. They haven't seen your ability to persuade someone. You know what I'm saying? So this is how you kind of get in. This is why companies hire this way, right? Because you're not going to do this if you don't give a rat's ass about, this company or working as a SQL developer. You know what I mean? Like it's already kind of pre-filtered in a sense, right? So that's why this is such a thing. Direct outreach is probably the most basic thing you can do to tap the hidden job market. There are a lot of other things. Check out a video I did on my YouTube channel about 4 months ago called How I'd Get a Job. It's a 45-minute video. I go through 11 different methods of how to get a job. So, I cover direct outreach, and there's a bunch of other things there. So check that out. Okay, where were we here after that rambling trip to nowhere? What's the best way to find a job? Okay, so I think that's what I was answering, right? Okay. So that's one of the things you can do. For people just starting out that have never done anything in the hidden job market, that's what I'd recommend. Just start with that, learn all you can about that process, and away you go. Gara Matthias says, I'm also an introvert. Very good topic. Feel like that's what's keeping things bad. Yeah, so here's what I'd say. Matthias or Gara. And I apologize if I've just completely bastardized your name. Here's the thing. Introverts are awesome. I'm an introvert. Introverts are awesome. If you look at the people in this world that have like invented anything or discovered anything, almost to a person, they're introverts, right? Because you need an unhealthy obsession, over something to care enough and get that good at it. You know what I mean? So introverts contribute in incredible ways. The problem is that the way the world works in terms of like business is the scientific study of how to make money, first of all, but the world of business, the way it works is it's based on human connection, right? In order to make money, in order to, generate value, you have to be connected to other people. Like, if nothing else, you have to be connected to customers that will use the thing that you produce, right? The more customers you're connected to, the better. The more customers you are aware of, the better, right? So the more connections that you have, the more potential you have, the more ability to generate value you have. That's the uncomfortable reality of the world for introverts, right? The good news, however, is that thanks to the internet, you can connect with people without ever having met them. So if you've got like a bit of a social phobia, you're scared of like calling someone on the phone, or you're scared of like meeting someone in person, you can still connect to them over things like LinkedIn and email, and you don't have to meet a single solitary person. You don't have to leave your home, to do it. So that's the good news. Okay, so if you know what you're doing and you understand people, you have the means of generating an incredible amount of value for lots of people and having lots of options, right? If you own a smartphone or you have a computer, you have within your hand the ability to find fame and fortune, basically. It's just a question of like, how do I use this tool? What do I know about people? How do people work? What do they want? Where are they? What are they looking for? How can I convince them, that I can help them? Right? These are questions you need to learn how to answer. Okay? So I've covered some stuff already in this chat, just kind of off the cuff of how you can maybe connect to people, discover different people out there that might need what you have, and then, maybe how to connect with them, how to reach them, how to get a message in front of them, right? What we haven't talked about is like how to, like what message to send them that would convince them to do business with you, to either hire you or as an employee or work with you as like a partnership or something, or if you're into gig work, or you know what I mean, or you're an entrepreneur, you're wanting to just sell something, like how to do that, right? And I can't get into that here. It's outside of the scope of what we do here, but I have it in my courses if you want to take it, but learn all you can. Like I already showed you, you got resources like ChatGPT, you got Google, you got all kinds of other things. Learn this. Like the reason why most people don't know it is because they've never actually tried to learn it. They never thought that was a thing they should learn. And a lot of introverts, one of their weak spots is that they trivialize this stuff. They think it's not important. And they do so at their peril because it hurts them. Because you could have incredible skills, but if you have no idea who could use your skills, and you don't connect with them, so they don't know about you, you lose, right? That's the reality of it. So learn all you can about this stuff, and it's like a lifelong journey. It'll benefit you for the rest of your life, certainly the rest of your career. Okay, so you're an introvert. I feel for you. You're awesome. Introverts are great. I like associating with introverts. Their weakness generally is social skills, but they got some fierce intelligence behind, behind what they do. So, good. They're the opposite of extroverts. Extroverts are the opposite. They're usually a lot easier to deal with. They're easier. They understand protocol. They understand manners. They understand, how to make a good impression and things like this, or how to have a conversation with somebody. They know that stuff. But sometimes there might not be a lot of substance there. So, if you're an introvert, tack on some social skills and the world is yours. Psych Iran says, 6 months back, I have applied for senior role, but the CTO, the chief technical officer, I guess, said you have less software experience than they want and rejected, but now I have the same role interview with HR, how to handle this. Listen, first of all, Psych Iran, everybody lies when they give feedback, on why they rejected you, okay? They usually don't want to say the real reason. And that the reason I say usually is because this is like a C-level person. Maybe they might be keeping it real. I don't know. But certainly recruiters never give you the real reason. So don't read too much into the reason why you were rejected. You have no way of knowing why you were rejected. A lot of companies, they reject you. And I know this from being in that position. They reject you for stuff they can't admit to. Some of the stuff is kind of nefarious. Other stuff, it's really not nefarious. It sounds bad when you say it. Especially when you say it to the person who was rejected. They're not going to take it well, no matter what it is. Right? So usually they say something harmless, like, oh, you didn't have skills in this area. Now, here's the thing. Usually if it's a skill thing, okay, like here in your case, it's experience. Oh, I'm sorry, you have less experience than we need, right? Well, can you not tell that from a resume? You know what I mean? Why do you have to call someone in for an interview just to tell them that they don't have enough experience at something? You should have been able to tell that from the resume, right? So that's your first tip off that that's not really the reason why they rejected you, right? Because the only people they invite to interviews are ones that on paper have the minimum requirements, or else what the hell would be the point in talking to them? Even if they're wonderful, you can't hire them because they can't do the job because they're not qualified. So the only people they invite down to interviews are people that have all the qualifications. So if they tell you, oh, I'm sorry, now that we've interviewed you, we've made a decision that you're just not experienced enough, or you don't have the right skills or qualifications, it's like, you know that that's false because they could have seen that from your resume, right? It means either they're lying or they didn't read your resume, but still invited you down for an interview, which is probably even worse. It means they have their head up their ass and they don't know what they're doing. So, take your pick, right? So don't worry about it, Psychorat. If you really want to know, if there's something maybe you're doing in an interview that's hurting you, like there's something you're saying or something you're doing that's like, making them want to reject you. The way to find that is to get a career coach. Okay. I'm not a career coach. I'm not talking about me, but go find a career coach. You can find them out on the internet. There's a million people that do this, usually people that are like ex-recruiters. Okay. And do one session with them, pay for like one session, and what they'll do is they'll do like a mock interview with you probably. And they'll like, at the end, they'll give you feedback. They'll say, okay, based on my professional opinion as a recruiter, this is what I think you're doing that's good. This is what I think you're doing that's bad. And here's how I recommend working on it. Okay. And that's how you get objective feedback from somebody else who's a professional, who's on your side. They don't work for the company. They work for you. Right? So that's the idea. If you can't afford that, you don't want to do that, you could do it with a friend or family member. It's a cheaper version of it. You're not talking to a professional, but if you trust your friends or family members, you could maybe get them to do that with you. Do a pretend interview where they ask the questions. They play the interviewer. They ask you the questions. And, you know, at the end, you say like, well, so how did I do? Like, you know, give me some feedback. Be honest, even if it's kind of harsh. That's what I'm looking for. You know, if you trust their judgment, they can say, well, you know, you did well, but, you know, you should change this, you know. Okay? So that's how you find out for sure. Don't rely on anything the employers tell you. They are never honest about these things for a variety of reasons. This is how you find out for sure. Thomas says, I'm watching your video regularly and enjoy your channel a lot. Question. I didn't know you have a course. We'll check. Do you offer coaching sessions around direct outreach? No, I don't, but I don't need to because it's all in here. Okay. I don't work with people one-on-one for like, you know, employment type stuff. That's not what I do. Like I'm a management consultant. I work with companies. So I do that. That's kind of my day job. This is kind of a sideshow. So, but there is a person who's linked on my website, on my YouTube channel. Her name is Abby. She has a YouTube channel. She's another YouTuber. She's an ex-recruiter. She does career coaching. So you could check out her stuff. There's many people that do that stuff. So you could check out her services. She offers that stuff. But if that's not to your liking, there's many other people that do that. I put, you know, my effort into courses. I just created 3 courses. It gives you much greater bang for the buck. So you could either purchase like an hour of somebody's time, or you could get like my entire course, like for the same amount of money. So that's kind of the deal. So that's how I did that stuff. And I can't contribute the time to it. But learn all you can. You really don't need like a coach in the beginning to teach you the theory. Okay. Learn the theory either from my course or somewhere else, and then start applying it, start doing it, you know? And that'll be the biggest lesson of all. Gara Mateus says, that's good. Your content is just amazing. Well, thank you. That's high praise indeed. I'm glad you're getting something out of this. And thank you for being here. We have 24 people here. Thank you for being here. Let me know if you're wondering about something, struggling with something. I'm here to help you out. This is, like I was explaining earlier, this is what I do instead of responding to written comments. Not possible to type out long answers like to every written comment. Just not possible for me. So I do this instead. While we're waiting for the next questions, we've reached the end of the chat. Check out my courses, like I was showing off earlier. I have this, my Get Hired course. So this will teach you how to get hired in the postage job market and the hidden job market. And then I also have this. Where is it? Hey, that's a good looking picture of me, don't you think? My hair is starting to look different, though. That's the area of biggest concern. But I also have this. This is my other course that's probably of interest to people here. This is called Write Like a Professional. It's about communication skills. So this will teach you how to have above average or far above average communication skills. If you want to get promoted at work, anything like that, you want to be seen as a contender to be promoted into management, tacking on communication skills is probably the most useful single thing you can do for that. So check that out. All of these, there's links in the description box below this live stream. You can follow the link to these courses, or you can check out links that go to videos I've made about these courses that explain them in greater detail. So check that out. Saikaran says, thank you for the information. I've been following you since 6 years. Holy crap. Wow, you're a hardcore fan there, Saikaran. So you're here for the long haul. I appreciate that. Hopefully you're getting something out of it if you've been here for 6 years. My speaking skills are improving by watching your videos. Awesome. Well, good. You see, I tried to do some videos on, public speaking and, stuff like that. They weren't terribly popular. And I think I actually, I might have made them like they're not publicly visible anymore, because they didn't perform very well. So, I guess people weren't really that interested in learning that stuff. That's fine. It's not rocket science. You can learn that stuff, everywhere. And the more you learn about this stuff, the more you should practice. So if you're learning how to speak and how to have conversations and things, and you're doing things like direct outreach, you're maybe trying and to do informational interviews with people, that's like a beautiful kind of dovetail of those two skills, right? Because then you put your speaking skills into practice, and that's what really hones them, right? I mean, speaking has been kind of, as an executive manager, like the speaking stuff, that's been my weak area. I have much more technical skills, looking fantastic and talking a good game has not been my strong point, but I never needed that to be my strong point. You know what I mean? So there you go. Do you recommend using AI in writing the resume? Absolutely. But in a very specific way. Like the thing is, like here's the deal. I'm not advocating that you use AI to write a resume for you in the sense that it creates the content. Of course not, right? You write the content yourself, but it repackages, rephrases, and reorders the content for you to customize it to the different jobs you apply for. That's how I would do it. That's what I recommend. So a good way to do it is for you to write a master version of your resume. Put on everything on there that you could ever possibly put on a resume. So it's all on there, right? It might be 3, 4, 5 pages. Just put on everything you can. Every little thing you've done, all your duties, all your accomplishments, just everything. Okay? You could even put, like, if you're younger and you don't have a ton of, like, years work experience, put on, like, projects you worked on at school, your accomplishments at school, if you came first in any competitions or you won a prize or you got, like, honors with distinction on anything, like put on everything on your master resume, right? Then, when you're about to apply for a job, one really great way of doing it is, how you have, like, let's see here, you have ChatGPT. You have this box here, right? This field. So what you can do is you could say, okay, here is the job that I want to apply for. And you paste the text of that job into here. Okay, you say, I'm going to give you a job posting. This is the job I would like to apply for. And you paste it in, okay? And you say enter. And it says, okay, right? Then you paste in the text of your master resume, the entire thing. You paste it into this field. You say, this is my master resume. It contains everything I could ever possibly put on a resume. Okay? And then you say enter, and it says, okay. Then you say, okay, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to create a custom version of my resume based on my master resume, okay? Like a subset of it. Okay? And I want you to optimize that new version of my resume for this job I've just given you. Okay? So use this employer, use their lingo. Like you can just say optimize it and let it go, or you can give it very detailed instructions. Say, I want you to directly address all the requirements that they've specified on the job posting. I want you to use all their lingo, all their terminology. So if I'm using different words for the same thing, substitute the right words that they're using. Okay, I want you to order it so that my resume reads. In this, like it talks about the same things that they talked about in their requirements section in order. Okay? And I'd also like you to do a little summary at the very top, call it relevant professional experience or something like that, where you just summarize everything that they said in their requirements, showing how I, check every box, or at least I can speak to each one. I have if I don't have the exact thing they're looking for, I have a very, very good substitute. Create that section for me. Right? And then it spits out this thing. And then you copy it from ChatGPT. You just select it, say Control C, copy, whatever, paste it into like a Word document or whatever format you're sending, PDF, whatever. And there's your resume for that particular job, right? So, proofread it, make sure that, it's all saying what you want it to say, and then send it off, right? In most job applications, your application is going to be read by a machine, right? So you don't need fancy formatting. Don't put any fancy formatting on it. Just have Times New Roman, basic Word document kind of thing, page and a half, and there you go. So tell it this, say I want it to be a page and a half, and, and there you go. It'll do that for you. And that's how you can send a custom application, like a custom resume to apply for whatever job. Do the same thing with a cover letter. Instead of saying, make me a resume, say make me a cover letter, that's optimized for this job. You could give it some parameters, right? And there you go. There's the thing. Proofread it. Make sure it's, it's good. And if there's anything fishy in there, you give it specific instructions to deal with that. Do it the way you want. The more of these you do, the more you can refine your thing. You could even copy, as you create a script, like a command for it, maybe it's a paragraph, you can copy that, paste it into a document you have, and then refine that over time. Don't put any long dashes in it. Don't repeat yourself, stuff like that, right? So you're just copying the script and you paste it in here. So when you want to apply for a job, if you've done this a few times, it's just a matter of pasting various things into this window. Paste the job posting, then paste your master resume, then paste your custom instructions. Bam, 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 bam. You get the output, proofread it, send it off, right? So a version of that is what I would recommend if you're going after posted jobs. Do you recommend using AI in writing the resume? Yes, so that's that. Psych Iran says, I can't afford the course. Is there any other way for the course? No, sorry, unfortunately. It's substantially less than what I know a lot of my peers are charging for their stuff. So this is kind of the cheap alternative, I suppose, to it. Tomaz says, you are doing a great job. Thank you. Thank you. You're absolutely welcome. Tomaz, do you see value in pursuing certificates when changing jobs? Yes and no. It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But you can find out whether it makes sense or not. Here's another big long thing. Actually, it's not that long. Here's what you do. Go on LinkedIn. You probably need the premium version of LinkedIn for this. So if you don't have it and you don't feel like paying for it, they're always flogging the free month of the premium service, right? So just sign up for the free month and then cancel before the end of the month so you don't have to pay anything, okay? Anyway, so go on LinkedIn and enter into the search box the exact name of the certificate you're wondering about, okay? Then do a people search. Okay, so you're not looking for jobs, you're not looking for companies, you're looking for people, for individuals, right? Limit the search to your city or your geographic region, okay? Then look at the results. So you should get individuals, right, where you can go and look at their profile. The reason why they showed up in the search results is presumably because they have that certificate somewhere on their profile. Like they've said, I've got that certification, or they're currently in school for it or something, right? So go and start looking at these things. Look at where those people are now, what jobs they're in. If they're all pumping gas, pouring coffee, or, doing, unskilled sort of customer service, that tells you something about that certificate. It might not really open a lot of doors for you. If they're all directors of whatever, entire divisions of companies, things like that, that's probably telling you it does open doors. And if that's the case, look at their career path. Okay, they got that certificate, then they worked here for 5 years, then they're in that role. And you notice like many people follow that pattern, right? Okay, so, now if there are no search results, like nobody has that certificate in your area, that tells you something else. It's probably not really needed, right, for the jobs that you're looking for, right, that you're wanting to do. You could also do the opposite of this. You could go look up the jobs that you want. Like say it's your ambition to become the director of IT for like a data center or something like that. Like whatever, like insert your career ambition, right? Put that into the search box in LinkedIn, do a search, make sure it's a people search, okay? Then confine it to your city or your geographic region, right? And then what should pop up, because this is a people search, you're going to get individuals. Those individuals will have that title somewhere on their profile. Either they're in that role now or they previously were in that role, right? In both cases, look at their profile. What do they have? If they all have PhDs, then it's probably a safe bet to say that if you want to be in that role, you're probably going to have to get a PhD, right? If none of them have PhDs, you could probably conclude that, well, I don't need a PhD to be in that role, right? So do they have certificates like the one you're wondering about? Maybe if they all have the same certificates, you look at what those certificates, they all seem to have this one and this one. So that tends to suggest that in this city or this region, if I want to be in that role, I should probably get that certificate and that other certificate, right? So, you know what I'm saying? If they don't have any certificates, that's kind of telling you, well, you don't seem to need a lot of certificates to be in that role. You know what I'm saying? So you can do this. Now, that will give you part of the answer. That'll tell you like, okay, some things about them, but you don't know how they got the job. Maybe they're part of a rich family or, you have no idea. So if you want to go even deeper, what you could do is you could then reach out to those people and say, hey, I'm thinking of taking this certificate. I can see that from your profile that you have that certificate. Would I be able to give you a quick phone call? And I'm very much interested in hearing what your experiences were like taking that certificate and what you think of that qualification in general. Would we be able to have a quick phone call? Is that okay? And you can make that into like sort of a template thing and you send it out to all those people that have the certificate. And, most of them won't respond, but some will. And then you could talk to them and you can get like information like, did they find it useful? Is it more of a con or, whatever? How did they find it? So if they say it's useful, you could ask them like, how is it useful? Did you apply those skills? Et cetera, et cetera. So these are some of the things you can do. Okay. Like that can get you specific answers for you in your city or your region for the job you're wanting to do or the certificate you're considering. It can give you some real world data on how widespread this stuff is, how useful it is, what people think of it. And then you can make a more informed decision. That's what I'd recommend. Thomas says, can AI be used instead of LinkedIn to check whether certain certificates are needed in job listings? It probably can be, but I don't know how you would do that. Like maybe, like, I don't know, maybe there's some AI tools now that could possibly do it, but I mean, I don't know. I can't think of like how that would be better than the thing I just described. You know what I mean? Because like you're finding the people that have done it. You're finding how many people have done it. You're seeing how they did it. And then if you want to go even deeper and get their personal opinion on it, you can. So I'm not sure how you would do that. Like if you're not on LinkedIn, how you would find that out. I'm not sure. I mean, you can try asking ChatGPT, like for example, let's try this right now. Okay, ChatGPT, if that is your real name. We were looking up something earlier for Tallahassee, Florida. So my question to you is that in Tallahassee, okay, approximately how many professionals have some kind of IT certificate in the greater Tallahassee area. And if you could possibly tell me what percentage of that is, the total amount of people who work in IT. So what percentage of people in Tallahassee have some kind of certificate in IT as opposed to the people that don't have a certificate in IT? I don't know if this is going to work, but I figured I'd try it. Let's see if it can come up with something. And if it does work, I'm not sure how reliable the answer will be. Okay, so total workforce and workers in Tallahassee. Metro area has a civil force, okay. Within that, the 106,000 employed in the Tallahassee economy. National data shows about 7% of the U.S. workers employed in tech-related jobs, okay? That's across the board, so it's making a guesstimate. Therefore, 7,700 people in the Tallahassee workforce might be in IT, okay, that's an estimate. Estimating IT certificate prevalence. 80% of IT professionals hold at least one certification. Okay, so it's looking at trends. Some industry commenters suggest very high certification penetration in tech roles. About that, putting it all together, you get that. Okay, so estimated program breakdown. Where's the bottom line here? So summary, of 7,000 individuals, this many have certificates. That's 80 to 90%. Percentage without the certification is about 20%. Once again, I don't know how accurate this is. It might be a starting point for stuff like that. I'm not sure. There might be better ways of doing this. Okay. Somebody says, Haseen, says, how to do well in final round of job interviews and answer questions for entry-level roles to get offers. Well, that's two questions. So how to do well in a final round job interview. Final round job interview, generally speaking, they're talking with the senior person. So senior people generally, for entry-level jobs, it'll be like a hiring manager. That's the senior person for that. Usually that's the immediate boss. So what they care about is they care about how well you get along with them. Oh, I'm about to sneeze. They care about how well you get along with them. So their focus is not on specific qualifications. It's more like how we click. Can I communicate with you? Are you a pleasure to deal with? Is it easy to talk to you, or is it awkward? Are we always talking cross purposes, or are we just clicking? That's the stuff that really matters for a final round interview with the most senior person. Okay, so that's like generally speaking for entry level stuff. And how to answer questions for entry level roles to get offers. Well, how much time do you have? I've done my entire channel on how to do that. So, if you have any specific questions, let me know. Which questions did you have in mind? We can get into it. Okay, Job Seeker says, looking for entry level remote work. Got certified last year, but graduated several years ago and have only done part-time work in another field since. Would appreciate all the advice you can give. Okay, so entry-level remote work. Oh, my mouth is drying up. I'm going to have to wind this down in about 5-10 minutes. So if you got any questions, just now's your chance. Okay, got certified, but graduated, part-time work. Well, that's pretty very open-ended. Like I'm sure the process. You have to apply. If there's two places you could look. One is the posted job market. The other one is the hidden job market. Posted job market has about 15% of the jobs. The hidden job market has about 85% of the jobs. You get jobs in the posted job market by finding job postings out on the internet, usually, or in the physical world, like, on billboards and help wanted signs and things like that. And then you apply for them, right? The hidden job market, you access that basically with networking, okay? And that includes getting on social media and connecting with people and messaging them. That's really what that means. Okay, so you've got two options there. Now these worlds like just totally diverge on what you do from that point outwards. Okay, so if this is entry level, what you're probably more receptive to is doing jobs on the posted job market where you apply with the job application, right? So you've got to find the jobs first. They're usually on company websites. You can go to aggregators too, like Indeed and LinkedIn, but I would strongly recommend that if you do find a job, you apply to it over that organization's website, not through an aggregator like Indeed or LinkedIn. Okay? Then these days you have to optimize your resume, you have to customize it. And I would strongly recommend you use AI as a tool to help you with that. It's not that, it's creating anything. It's just that it's doing the grunt work for you under your guidance. So it's reformatting, resummarizing, reordering things on your resume to fit whatever job you're applying to. I just went through how to do that like about 10 minutes ago. I'm not going to go over it again now. Okay, and then you get the interview. To pass the interview, go and learn the answers to the 10 common job interview questions. There's about 10 of them. Go learn all the answers. Learn how to handle behavioral interview questions. Those are a little bit different. They're the ones that start with, tell me about a time, you did this. Okay, those work a different way. And then also learn about all the soft skills that a job interview is actually about. That's what they're actually evaluating you on. Learn all about that stuff, like how to be professional, how to be, come across very warm and make a good first impression, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Then if they give you an offer, you're probably not going to be negotiating it, if you're just kind of starting out. So you just sort of accept it and return it and away you go, So it's a multi-step process. Each part of the process has like a lot of tips and tricks and learning. I have a lot of stuff on my channel that covers all of that stuff. So whatever aspect of it you're interested in, go check it out. Hidden job stuff, that's a whole different world, a whole different skill set. If you're an introvert, if you're a technical person, you can be as good at this as any extrovert. It's just that you've got to learn how that stuff works. You've got to learn a different set of skills, right? I cover all that stuff in this course. So check out this course, my Get Hired course, if you want to learn all that stuff with me. Hopefully that answers your question. Supporter 283 says, my brother was able to get into his job thanks to your tips. Oh, that's good. I was wondering about that lady you mentioned earlier. You mentioned someone named Abby. Where can I find a link to her channel? Well, right on my YouTube page, like I said. So go to click on, I'm not trying to get you to leave, but go click on the icon that looks like my face, and that should take you to my YouTube channel, where like the main page. And then, it's got like all these different sections, my popular videos and the live streams I have coming up and all that kind of stuff. And then right down the bottom, I've got links to other channels. I've got links to these two channels here, Companies Expert 2 and the Companies Expert 3. So if you watch this channel for the job seeker stuff, or if you watch this channel for the business and entrepreneur type stuff, I've got separate channels that give you even more of that. And then there's also a link to her channel. Okay? The name of her channel is Life Work Balance. Life Work Balance. Not work-life balance, life work balance. Okay? So hopefully with all of that, you can find her channel. And it's great that your brother is working and and everything's going good. That's awesome, and thank you for telling me that. I'm glad that things are working out. AV Gonyama 1 says, this answer is gold. We always focus on skills. Okay. Psychoran says, thank you for all the info, and I'm in the EU, so this is why it's first time in live. Can I know what's your schedule to live? You can see that on my YouTube page. I mean, I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I do different live streams that talk about different topics. So I do a live stream on entrepreneurship. I do another one on like high level business stuff. And then I do a few on job seeker, kind of thing, job market and careers. So every day I do at least one on, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Each day I do one live stream for sure on, job search and that kind of stuff. But you can see my live schedule. And then you can put in reminders. Like you can click on it and say, send me a reminder for this. And, it will. So check that out. Job Seeker says, sounds like the suggestions for remote aren't that different from online. Yeah, sorry, I didn't address the remote stuff, did I? Thank you. Would your Get Hired course still apply for remote work long gap since graduation? Yes. I mean, I've done videos on like work gaps, so you don't have to get my course to hear what I've said about that stuff. Remote work, I'm not a big expert on because that stuff keeps changing year by year. Like employers' attitudes towards it kind of keep changing and stuff like that. Ever since COVID, it's kind of yo-yoed back and forth. It's interesting because it's a good thing in a way, but it's a bad thing in another way. It's good in the sense that you can work from home. At least partially you can work from home. It's bad in the sense that you're not visible, to them. So different employers have different attitudes towards it. So, like anything else, it's a numbers game. Some employers, they're open to it and they would think you would be good for it. Excuse me. Other employers, very much the opposite. They're resistant to it, or they have their minds made up about which type of person would be a candidate for remote work, things like that. There's no rhyme or reason. Everybody's got an opinion that varies on all these things. So all you can do is just look, and see who's open to it and see if somebody will give you that remote job in the form that you want. That's all you can really do. What I would do is I would not simply check out things that say explicitly remote work. I would still apply for all jobs. I take any interview you can get, go as far as you can down the process, and then if you ever do get to the offer stage, then I'd bring it up there if they haven't mentioned it or they haven't made it part of the job. I would then say, look, everything's fine. Everything, this is good, that's good, that's good, that's good. It all works. But listen, I need at least 1 day remote a week or something like that, and at that point, there'll be a lot of pressure for them to say yes. So, you never know what people are open to if they don't explicitly have that in mind, as a remote job from the outset. You know what I mean? So I mean, that's what I would try. Your results will vary with that, but it's something to shoot for. And then obviously you apply to the jobs that explicitly say it's remote work. You're absolutely welcome, supporter 283. Thank you for being here. You're awesome. Thomas says, thanks again. By the way, your surveys on YouTube are great and fun. Well, thank you. It's great to hear some positive feedback from that, because I get raked over the coals for those. Because people say, what's this for? Or they take exception to the fact that I don't just give them the answer. Sometimes there is an answer, but sometimes there isn't. It's just what opinion you have, you know what I mean? And I'm honestly curious what people think. But it's great to get, that's probably one of the only times I've ever gotten a positive statement about those public opinion polls that I have coming out on my channel almost every day. So thank you. I'd love to end on that wonderful note. So thanks to everybody who's been here for this stream. You guys are awesome. Always remember, you have value. It's just a matter of connecting to the employer who's out there right now that wants to hire you. They could use your skills and they're looking for someone like you. It's just a matter of connecting to them. So take heart if getting you down. This is a ridiculous process, but it's temporary and you're going to be fine. I will be back live on Friday. In the meantime, check out my courses if you're into that kind of thing, if you could use that kind of extra tailored assistance. Other than that, take care and I'll see you soon. Cheers.